Green line? Okay. You got a green line. We like green lines.
Okay, everybody, I want to thank you for coming tonight. I'm Sergeant Etchison with the Xenia Police Division. We're going to get ready to get started here for our Surviving an Active Shooter event. We're going to have time for questions later on, so if you guys have any questions, make sure you jot them down, and we'll cover them later on in the presentation. About halfway through the presentation, we're actually going to take a break. And about that same time, we're going to do a little thing where I walk around outside the second floor, different rooms in the second floor, firing off blanks, so you guys can actually hear what gunfire is like inside of the building. So we'll give you a warning when all that happens. But this is Officer Harold Matheson. He is a ALICE instructor, also a CRACE instructor, so he's going to be giving a presentation today. If you have questions, like I said, make sure you write them down or remember them, and we'll come back and do a question and answer towards the end. Okay? Harold?
All right. Good evening, everyone. Again, welcome. We'll get right into, okay. I learned last time, maybe not very well, that you really got to pay attention to this thing because it's really touchy. Sometimes you don't even actually have to touch it. Active shooter is an individual actively engaged in killing or attempting to kill people in a confined and populated area. In most cases, active shooters use firearms and there's no pattern or method to their selection of victims. Kind of a definition for us. The attacker, there's no really good profile for them. I mean, you can't say, well, if the person does this, has these characteristics, they're going to be an active shooter, okay? They do have an avenger, usually have an avenger mindset where they feel like they've been wronged in some way by society or a certain sect or group or whatever, and they're effecting their revenge. Some of them broadcast, almost all of them broadcast. If you look at statistics and read reports, after action reports of these incidents, most of the time you'll find out they told somebody. Somebody knew that they were doing something, or there were a lot of indicators, compiling weapons or talking about suicide or ideation about it to other people. And that's really where we need the community involvement. We're all in this together, right? And if you know somebody that you feel like is leaning that way or saying things like that or whatever, we would look to you. If you brought it to our attention, we would ask you to, would you please monitor that for us? And if you see it getting worse, let us know, okay? Some of the risk factors or things that are common characteristics of people that do commit these acts. They have some type of history of violence, okay? Exposure to violence, substance abuse, dependence, mental illness, history of suicidal thoughts or attempts, stalking, harassing, or threatening behavior, negative family dynamics and support system, isolation, instability. Okay? Others are concerned about them. Okay? People that know them very well, their parents, their neighbor, grandparents, their children, start saying, my dad or my brother or my sister, my niece, my nephew, they start being concerned and talking amongst themselves about it. It's a pretty good indicator that a person's, heading towards an edge. Doesn't mean they're not necessarily going to do something, but it is an indicator. If you look at all those things that we just talked about, those characteristics, we all know people that have those characteristics, right? I mean, those characteristics in and of themselves are not uncommon. It may be uncommon for one person to have all of those, but you can definitely not look at someone and say, well, you have all these characteristics, or we're going to lock you up, right? Just a quick look of active shooter events in the United States from 2000 to 2017, okay? 250 events. 250 events. In those 250 events, 799 people were killed. Okay, and that doesn't include the attacker themselves, which most of the time are kill themselves or someone, the law enforcement does. So, of course, about double the amount was wounded. And that's a lot of people. And you guys are here today because you've heard, you see the stuff in the news and you want to take some steps to prepare what can I do. And we don't want you to be super scared. I mean, they are scary events, and they get our attention. The news media does a good job of reporting on them and letting us know what's going on. Just to let you know, though, in the scheme of things, in car crash-related fatalities, in 2017, there was 37,133 people that died in car crashes. Okay, so you're way more likely to be involved in a car crash. Okay, those are people those are actual deaths. 10,874 of them were alcohol related. That means the driver of the car tested over the legal limit, 0.08. Okay, over 10,000 people, and that's 1 year. Okay, as opposed to the 799 over a 17-year period. You're much more likely to be struck by lightning, right? However, for these events, right, for being struck by lightning, we're careful, right? We know, so we have some knowledge, and we know lightning likes open spaces, tall things in open spaces, is attracted to metal or anything to the ground, and we avoid those during lightning storms, right? I know a good friend of mine, he will run 365 days a year, no matter what the weather conditions, no matter how he feels. Doesn't matter if it's pouring down rain or snowing or whatever, but if it's lightning, I ain't running, okay? So, I mean, car crashes, we all take precautions for that. They make cars better than they used to. They're a lot safer for us if we're involved in crashes. We watch our speeds. You know, we drive at slower speeds. We're cautious, paying attention to what's around us. We do things to mitigate that type of event in our lives, right? So the purpose of this training tonight is create an understanding of how to plan, implement, and manage a man-made critical incident or disaster, a violent intruder event. Okay, and the purpose of the training is to save lives, to mitigate casualties. You know, we can't save all lives, right? You can't save all lives. It's statistics. When someone comes in with a gun, they start shooting a bunch of people, just start shooting a lot or whatever, it's can't save everybody. Right? It's like car crashes. We're never going to be able to say nobody will ever be hurt in a car crash again. Okay? But we can do something to mitigate that. Mitigate negligent claims. Okay? Enhance critical thinking skills. Empower staff or your family members. Lifelong results. This training you're getting tonight, it isn't for any specific area or purpose. I mean, we teach this in all of our schools, but we tell the teachers that you know, this isn't just for schools. This isn't just for your classroom, but this is you on your way home from work, at the gas station, at the restaurant, in your home, at your church. It doesn't matter where you are. Okay. So when do people usually learn procedures for responding to a disaster? When do we usually learn a procedure or look at procedures? Afterwards, right? Right after something happens, then we usually plan, like, okay, we don't want that to happen again, so we do something about it. And, you know, that's why we're here tonight, right? This isn't actually, you know, not the first time. You know, Dayton just experienced it. It was pretty close to home. You know, we got a lot of people thinking, oh my gosh, you know, this is terrible, and it is. But it's after an event like that, people start thinking, man, I need to do something. I want to do something. Is lockdown all you really need to know? 20 years ago, this was standard procedure in all of our schools to protect the people from a shooter. Okay? Problem with it was a procedure that was developed for a threat outside the building. Okay? It wasn't developed, it was for a drive-by shooting. You know, you get down, you hit the deck, right? But it doesn't protect people inside the building from a threat that's also inside the building. If you were an active shooter, you can imagine an active shooter coming through the door. Do they look like easy targets? Yeah, they're easy targets, huddled together. Do they look like they're ready to defend themselves at all? No. Okay, it's not just some nutty idea anymore. We've been you know, talking about this ever since Columbine, a lot. You know, there were active shooter events before Columbine, but that one really got this on the radar. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security, has a plan. The New York Police Department has a recommendation. The state of Ohio has recommendations. They require in all of our schools now that they have a plan beyond lockdown. You can't just have a lockdown plan. You got to have something beyond that. So we're going to watch a little video right now. Put on. It was developed by the Department of Homeland Security, and it's called Run, Hide, Fight. Probably a commercial.
I used to manage my team with spreadsheets. It was a nightmare. And then we switched to Monday.com. Monday.com.
It may feel like just another day at the office, but occasionally, life feels more like an action movie than reality. The authorities are working hard to protect you and to protect our public spaces. But sometimes bad people do bad things. Their motivations are different. The warning signs may vary, but the devastating effects are the same. And unfortunately, you need to be prepared for the worst. If you were ever to find yourself in the middle of an active shooter event, your survival may depend on whether or not you have a plan. The plan doesn't have to be complicated. There are 3 things you could do that make a difference. Run, hide, fight. First and foremost, if you can get out, do. Always try and escape or evacuate, even when others insist on staying. Encourage others to leave with you, but don't let them slow you down with indecision. Remember what's important, you, not your stuff. Leave your belongings behind and try to find a way to get out safely. Trying to get yourself out of harm's way needs to be your #1 priority. Once you are out of the line of fire, try to prevent others from walking into the danger zone and call 911. If you can't get out safely, you need to find a place to hide. Act quickly and quietly. Try to secure your hiding place the best you can. Turn out lights, and if possible, remember to lock doors. Silence your ringer and vibration mode on your cell phone. And if you can't find a safe room or closet, try to conceal yourself behind large objects that may protect you. Do your best to remain quiet and calm. As a last resort, if your life is at risk, whether you are alone or working together as a group, fight. Act with aggression. Improvise weapons. Disarm him. And commit to taking the shooter down, no matter what. always have an exit plan. Know that in an incident like this, victims are generally chosen randomly. The event is unpredictable and may evolve quickly. The first responders on the scene are not there to evacuate or attend to the injured. They're well trained and are there to stop the shooter. Your actions can make a difference for your safety and survival. Be aware and be prepared. And if you find yourself facing an active shooter, there are 3 key things you need to remember to survive. Run, hide, fight.
Okay. Active shooter statistics. Overwhelmingly, the offender is a single shooter, okay? 98% of the time, primarily a male. In 40% of instances, they kill themselves. Two percent of these shooters bring IEDs or improvised explosive devices as an additional weapon. The shooter often stops as soon as he hears or sees law enforcement, sometimes turning his anger or aggression on them. 40% they shoot themselves, and usually that occurs when law enforcement is arriving. Okay, they've decided they're going to do this event. They've also decided today's the day I'm going to die. They don't want to live and be held accountable and have to live with the consequences of their actions. Checking out. What is it that stops an active shooter? What is it that stops an active shooter in these events? The New York Police Department organized attack resolutions in the active shooter data set into 4 different categories: applied force, no applied force, suicide or attempted suicide. The attacker fled. Okay, you can see here 46% of active shooter events were stopped by applied force. Somebody there did something to stop the event. Okay, 46% of the time, 93 out of 202 times. 14% of the time, there was no applied force to stop the event. Maybe the shooter just decided, okay, I've killed who I wanted to kill, I'm done. Maybe he was in a room or whatever, and the police were able to talk him out without using force to bring him into custody. Okay, 40% of the time, the suspect killed himself. Okay, there again, he's not one to be held accountable. He wanted to do his thing and be done. Here's another chart that shows details how people, different events when they happen, what resolves them, and the results of those. So if you see on the right here where it says victim resolves, you can see it's the lowest numbers of everything, right? Whether they were killed or injured. The blue line represents the number of people killed, okay? If you look where the people that are there at the location do something to stop it, it's very low. I don't know, that's probably less than 50 out of the 400 and some people that were killed in these events. If you look at when the shooter himself decides, hey, I'm checking out, he shoots himself, and it's up close to 400. When it's the police, when he actually continues his actions until the police get there, it's just slightly higher than when he stops it himself. And based on this information, what's the best way for one of these events to be stopped? Somebody that's there, right? Somebody that is there has to do something about it, okay? Is that the conventional way of planning? You know, is that something that we plan? It hasn't been. It's starting to be. You guys are here tonight because you're like, you know what, I'm going to start planning. I'm not going to do the conventional. I'm not going to do what everybody's done in the past. If there's anything that I can do to increase my chances of survival, in that particular situation, I'm gonna do it. Just like you would if, you know, I don't wanna get heart disease, well, how do I avoid that? By healthier living, or how do I mitigate not being a statistic in a car crash or a DUI crash, right? Columbine Library, school library, why did they stay in there? Okay, during Columbine shooting, there were 12 people killed in that incident. 12 people died in the Columbine shooting. 10 of them died inside this library right here. And this phone call, a teacher was in the library with students and was on the phone with 911 for over 7 minutes. 7 minutes while the two suspects were outside the library doors. They were shooting. You could hear the guns going off on the phone on the 911 call. The students were trying to get up and leave. And the teacher, because she thought that was what you were supposed to do, you know, kept telling them, get back down, get down, don't move, stay down. And after 7.5 minutes of telling these kids that wanted to leave, not to leave, the shooters entered the library and were able to walk up to each of them to shoot them point blank. Okay? Over 700 kids evacuated Columbine High School without being told. It wasn't a plan. They hadn't been trained in what to do, but they did it. They just did it. You know, that's one of our natural instincts, is to flee, right? Fight, flight, or freeze. And so over 700 kids actually fled, but tragic. But a lot of times we don't know what to do. A lot of times we've been trained, you know, we watch TV, you read the news, or, you know, and you think when someone has a gun, you do what they tell you, and maybe you'll survive. And that may be true. You flip a coin, may be true if someone's robbing you, give me your wallet, okay. But it's not true in one of these active shooter events when they don't care about money. They're not going to live past today. They just want to kill as many people as they want. So in that instance, it's, you know, what can you do to survive? What can you do to increase your chances of survival? So lockdown doesn't mean locked in. In Vermont Tech, Virginia Tech, I go to Vermont, I see the VT, it makes me think of Vermont. Vermont Tech, there was a suspect that he chained the door to the school building, 3 different doors, secured them so either responding rescuers couldn't get in or people in the building couldn't get out. He went up to the 2nd floor of the school building and was walking up down the halls, peeking in the classroom. Some of the people that survived it, you know, were telling the story. But this guy, this is what he did, okay? He first went into room 206. There were 14 people in the room. He killed 10 of them and wounded 2, okay? That was his first one. Then he came out of that room. He went into room 207. There were 13 people present. He killed 5 and wounded 6. Okay. After that, he went down to room 211. There were 19 people. He killed 12 of them and wounded 6. Came down to room 205. 12 people present. They had barricaded the room. He wasn't able to make entry. He left that room and went back to this room. By this time, some of the wounded and unwounded barricaded the door. He was able to get the door back open and fire some more rounds in there, but he didn't get back in and he didn't wound anybody else. Okay. Then he went back down to room 211, and of course the first time he didn't kill all 12 and wound 6, but he went back to that room and shot some of them again, multiple times, and shot some more that hadn't been shot. Then he went to room 7. Room 7, the teacher had barricaded the door. The teacher in that room was actually a Holocaust survivor. Yeah, Holocaust survivor. He barricaded the door with like a desk and his body holding it, and he had kids jumping out of a window. They were 19 feet up, but most of the kids were able to get out of the room. The suspect was able to get into the room and ultimately killed 2. Killed the teacher and 1 other student and wounded a couple more. So, but in this instance, Cho, the suspect, the coroner's report came back and said he was less than average muscle mass for a man his age, or a young man his age. He was small in stature, in frame. There was nothing strong about him. And generally, in these active shooter events, every one of the characters, they're not, you know, WWE big time guys that could take on 4 or 5 men, but they're frail. They're not strong. They're not mighty. They have a gun, and that's what gives them their power. In these classrooms, he was able to walk right up to people that wouldn't even, you know, offer him any resistance at all. They were basically, please don't shoot me, was their defense. Okay, it doesn't work in one of these events. So if any one of them would have launched an attack on him, they could have been successful, okay, and stopped him from doing what he was doing. Columbine Library, 8.5 minutes, 50% casualty rate. Virginia Tech, 8 minutes of shooting, approximately 50% casualty rate. Locking down and waiting for the police alone may not be the best option. Time, right? A lot of people over here say, well, why don't we just call the police? That's what the police are for, okay? Well, when seconds count, the police are always minutes away, almost. You know, in Dayton, we were fortunate, right? They were there in like 20 seconds. But when seconds count, minutes away. Your life and the life of the people around you depends on what you can do. If you're faced with an active shooter event, your survival depends on you and what you can do in that moment and nothing else. Waiting on somebody else to get there, you know, 5 minutes is an extremely long time for someone to be actively shooting people. Our police response has changed, and we train probably, I don't know, what do you think, Lon? 90% of our training is for dealing with lethal threats. We train with our guns, we train with tactics, our SWAT team, and that's our #1 training to make us as good and as effective as we can be. However, if we're not there, we can't utilize it. There has been some evolution in how we respond. In the school system, you know, it used to be if you had somebody in a building, a bad guy in a building, you surrounded it. You surrounded it, and then you started negotiating with him. That's what they did at Columbine. And everybody after was like, hey, that's not, you've got to go in. You got to go in. You know, it's not time to surround and call out. It's time to go in and find that guy and stop him from doing what he's doing. So we changed immediately here at Xenia PD. Jack Mann, retired Xenia officer, was instrumental in coming up with our response back then. But anyway, it started, you have 4-man teams. You waited till 4 officers got on scene, and you went in as a team. Then it went to 3, and I can remember every training we went to, people were looking and saying, you know what, if I'm standing at this door and I hear gunshots going off, I can't wait. There's no way I'm going to wait 30 more seconds or another minute just to get another officer here. I'm going in. So now we train it, and Sergeant Etchison and one of our other officers was instrumental in developing rapid response team training for single officer deployment into active shooter events. So now we don't wait. The first officer there is he's gonna go in and hunt down the suspect. So Alice, the response options, the company had come out in 2000, shortly after Columbine, and developed a program that's nationwide. It's in schools all over. It's international, and they're pretty big proponents of this type of training. Their concepts, the acronym is ALICE. It stands for Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, and Evacuate. It's not a linear process. You don't have to do one before the other. You know, you can go right to evacuate. You know, the best place to be if there's an active shooter is where? Somewhere else, right? So we're going to go over these concepts a little bit. Information is key to making good decisions, right? Information should flow in all directions, provide as much intel as possible to as many people as possible. Use any and all available means. Okay, maybe your sensory inputs. You may be just hearing gunfire. We're going to experience that here probably in a half hour or so, what that sounds like. But it's important. We can make good decisions when we get good information, right? If I'm walking into the mall, up to the mall, and I see a bunch of people running out, or if I'm in the mall and I see people running, and there's like, run. Well, I can turn around and run just because they're running, but it would be better for me. I would appreciate it more if they say, run, there's a guy back there with a gun. Right? Good information. Alert needs to benefit all and provide info. Don't issue commands, like just telling somebody to run. They're really like, why? Like, why? You know, tell them why, right? In our schools, you know, if a gunman would enter a school or a building and someone had said, lock down, lock down. Well, wouldn't you like to know why I'm locking down? Why am I locking down? Why? Like, so we need to change that to this. Lockdown, lockdown. There's a gunman in the main hallway. Tell them where the threat is at. If that can be broadcast, you know, over a loudspeaker or something like that, it can give people in the building information. So, well, maybe I don't want to lock down in my room. I'm clear on the other side of the building from where the threat's at. I'm just going to take off and keep going. Does that make sense? So providing information. Lockdown's an excellent starting point, okay? Locked doors provide a time barrier. It's about time. Creating time. And if you can hold out, especially in the city of Xenia, it's small. We're you know, 3 by 4 mile square. I mean, and one officer, if we were all in one corner of the city, we'd still be to you probably in less than 4 minutes. Okay, but chances are there's going to be somebody closer, and there's going to be somebody there maybe in 2 minutes. Okay, if we're fortunate enough, maybe quicker than that. However, you know, it's about time. If you can buy time, the longer, more time you got, the better your chances of survival increase. So, locked doors are good. Barricade is good. And the idea of a barricade is to create a stronghold that nobody can breach. You know, make yourself a hard target. Okay, this is something you can think about now, just in your homes. You know, where would you go if someone was breaking into your house, trying to bust through your front door? Where would you go in your house? You know, where's that place that you might run to get immediate cover? Is there a way to lock the door? Is the door substantial? Is there an armoire or a bed that you could push over in front of the door to secure that door for a period of time? Okay. You know, think about what you could do in your places of employment, where you work. In my office most of the time, so you should have some kind of a plan, how I can secure my office door. What do I have in here that I could push in front of the door that would secure the door better, or maybe even prevent or help shield me from bullet fire? Okay. So which is more effective barrier for a door opening out? Obviously, that one is a great, nobody's going to open that door. This is a door that opened out, but is this something? Yeah, if the bad guy pulled the door open, even if it wasn't locked, would this be an obstruction for him? Would it buy you some time? Would it keep him from being as effective as he would like to be? Absolutely. So anything is better than nothing, right? Desks, chairs. Officer Dean Marjoris, he's one of our school resource officers. He actually did this with just an extension cord that they had in a classroom, and he could not open that door. Just that simple knot around the doorknob and wrapped around the pencil sharpener, he could not get that door open. Making yourself a hard target. Looping a belt around the door closer. Using a cord or something to tie the doorknob to an object in the room, so if they pulled on the door, it's going to pull on that filing cabinet or whatever. This person here was forward thinking and decided, you know what, I don't have anything good, so I'm going to make something. I got me a little piece of rope with a slip knot on it and a hook, and I just mounted that little hook to the wall, and now they can secure their door. You can buy products. This is just a door stop. You screw that into the floor, and it puts upward pressure on the door. It's another device that you could get to if you wanted to secure a door somewhere. So there's some different things you can think about. The time to do that kind of planning is now, right? Not in the event. Your ability to make decisions when someone's trying to hurt you or kill you, and you're scared to death, your basic human brain goes to survival mode, and its ability to think and process information goes to about zero. Okay? You're going to do whatever you've trained to do, whatever kind of pathways you've created in your mind, that's what you're going to revert to. whatever you thought of, whatever you've done before, whatever you've practiced, whatever you've trained. So Inform provides as much real-time information as possible, by all means as possible, empower those under threats to use this information to make single or collective decisions. You know, they stopped telling, you know, it used to be in the schools, the principal would say lock down. Now they can say lock down, but we're training, if you think lockdown is not the best for you and your kids, then do something different. Every teacher has the authority that if I think the best thing for my students is for me to get out this door and run through the neighborhood, then that's what we're going to do. Okay? They have the ability to make a decision. You give them the information, they make the decision on their survival. Who do you want telling you what to do when it's time to survive? Yeah. If you know what to do. If you don't know what to do, I'll be happy for somebody around me to say, let's do this. I'm like, okay. Right? Be flexible. The situation's going to be dynamic and fluid, right? We're talking about places of employment. Do you have the ability to page or make announcements through the phone system? Maybe you have an intercom system in your house. I don't know. What means of communication do you have? Talk about in the schools, ideally, if they have a play-by-play announcer or somebody's got them on video, can watch them and be telling everybody where they're at, what they're doing, so they can make better decisions, right? Counter, the counter. How difficult is it to interrupt the skill set needed to shoot accurately, okay? Active shooters, in a shooting police, in a situation, the police have a higher level of training. Okay, they've all been through some type of formal training and probably some type of ongoing training throughout their career. So they have a higher skill level when it comes to firearms. However, in shooting instances, the police have about a 20% hit rate. They miss 80% of the time, okay, when these active shooters have about a 50% hit rate. Why is that? Why is that? Why do you think the police have a lower hit rate than these active shooters? What?
Type of weapon.
Type of weapon?
There's more people.
More people gathered in one
Okay, maybe more people, right?
Active shooter's more relaxed about what he's doing, probably.
Well, he's probably more relaxed because maybe people are just cowering down behind their chairs and are sitting ducks. They're not mounting an attack on him. The police officers, anytime a police officer uses his gun, he's under a threat, a life and death threat. He's scared. He's probably moving. You know, he's moving. The suspect's moving. It's a fast-moving situation. So that's why his heart rate's increased, his blood pressure's increased.
He has to be very selective of his target.
He has to be selective of his target. Right. So there's many things that cause that, right? So what we need to do to survive an active shooter event is try to let that active shooter experience some of the same things that officer is experiencing, right? Don't be a sitting target. Don't be someone just sitting there saying, please don't. Okay? You can survive contact with an armed intruder. Okay? You can survive. 85% of people that get shot survive. 85% of people that get shot survive. Pretty good odds, isn't it? And I say that for a couple of reasons, but I want you to know and have it in your mindset that just because, if I would get shot in one of these events, not to stop. Don't give up. Don't stop moving. Don't stop working. Don't start, because there's been people officers that have been shot, and then died, and afterwards they look at him like, why did he die? This was not a lethal wound. Maybe he died just because he thought, I'm done. I got shot. My life's over. It's not true. It's not real. There's also been people that have been shot a lot in vital areas and shouldn't have survived. The doctors and surgeons are like, I can't believe he survived, but he did. Okay? So let that be you. No matter what I do in one of those situations, I'm not stopping. I'm going to keep moving. You get to medical help quickly, your chances of survival increase dramatically. So you want to engage in acts that's going to disrupt the shooter's ability to acquire easy targets. Okay, just like an officer is engaged in a gunfight with a suspect, you're going to do things that causes that officer to get amped up, right? You're going to do something that's going to make him lose focus on exactly what he wants to do. Surprise, I'm not an easy target. Surprise, okay? Noise, yelling at the person induces stress, overwhelms his senses, okay? Just yelling, making lots of noise, yelling at him. Get out of here. Put that gun down. Just yelling at him, very loud, okay? What do we do when we're at a football game or a basketball game and the guy's up there at the free throw line on the other team, right? We start yelling and screaming and pounding our feet, right? You know, he might be an 80% shooter, you know, when he's at home in his driveway, but you get him in front of all that and that little bit of stress can, you know, maybe he's now 50%. Okay, who knows? Movement. It's difficult to align your sights and then pull your trigger without disrupting those sights. Just moving. Moving is great. It takes very little skill to take a gun and just point it at somebody and hit them when you're in close proximity and the person's not moving. Lon and I, we're both firearms instructors. You know, we're good shooters. You give us a piece of paper, in front of us with little dots on or whatever, we can sit there all day long and ding, we're very good. Oh, yeah, you're awesome. Hey, you're good, yeah. But take that same target and make it start shooting bulls back at me, you know, my accuracy is going to go down. You take that same target and start moving around, my accuracy is going to drop. You take that same target and start creating distance and gets farther away from me, I'm not going to be as accurate. We'll do a little demonstration here with this laser, okay? Just to simulate, if I'm shooting, I'm going to move this laser back here. You see how far we're about, close to 20 feet away maybe. But I'm going to move this laser. I'm just going to move it. I'm going to move it like 1 inch right here. 1 inch from here. Just watch the laser. I'm going to move it 1 inch back here and move it 1 inch. That's a 1 inch movement from here. Okay? I'm moving the 1 inch. You see how easy that is to miss? There's plenty of documented cases where people have been in gunfights from me to you, 3 or 4 feet away, and are missing each other, okay? You can point the gun, but then when you pull that trigger, they're squeezing. They're squeezing, they're jerking. If you've had any experience shooting, trying to shoot precise and accurately or whatever, you might have a hard time doing it because you're squeezing. So if they're under stress, you're yelling at them, you're throwing things at them, you're moving, likely just to be jerking that gun when they go to pull that trigger, and it doesn't take much. Now, the closer you are, the less effective that is, right? If I'm this close and I move it 1 inch, it still takes it from here to the edge of my shoulder, okay? So, but the farther you also, if you can start creating distance, your chances of survival go way up. Okay, you start moving, it goes way up. Now, if you're going to run a long distance, you might want to zigzag, right? Because if you're on a straight line, bullets travel in a straight line. But if you're moving back and forth, you're going to have to try to track that and time that. Okay? Distractions, throwing things at attacker, moving objects into attacker's path, yelling, causes the attacker's mind to focus on other things besides accuracy, overloads his senses. Okay, so you barricaded yourself in your office. You've got things in your office that you've already thought about. Well, I can use a stapler for a weapon. I got a paperweight for a weapon. I've got a chair. I got this little desk here, whatever. So when they do come in, you mount some type of attack, right? Any attack at all is going to have some good effect, okay? I don't care how small you are or how weak you are. Anybody in this room, if I walked in the room with a gun and you jumped on me with everything that you got, I don't know about you, but if I believe, okay, we want you to get out if you can get out. If you can't get out, you want to try to secure yourself somewhere. But if the person gets in there and you cannot escape, I don't know about you, but I've already got it in my mind, if I'm going to die, I'm going to die trying. I want to use every little bit of energy and life that I have in my body to stop that thing that's trying to kill me, okay? So, I'm I'm gonna mount an attack. So the smallest person, I don't care how small you are or unpowerful, if you jumped on me and just went wild on me, I'm not gonna be able to do what I wanna do. It may take me some time to overpower you, okay? That would help other people in the room though, right? Other people could maybe escape while that was occurring. So, but do something. These people look like a couple teachers getting ready to mount an attack on an intruder coming in the doorway, right? Would that be effective distraction for someone? You know, again, if he just come in the door and you're just standing there, it's pretty easy just to point and squeeze the trigger, boom, or just walk right up to you. But all of a sudden you got a guy charging you with 4 legs and they're going to smash you against the wall. It's a different story. You know, some of us in here are old enough to watch really old Superman shows and movies. Okay, if you remember, they could shoot Superman and he'd put his chest out and the bullets would bounce off, and then they throw the gun at him and he'd duck. Okay, it's an instinct. Ducking is an instinct. If you throw something in somebody's face, they're not going to just ignore that. Instinctively, they're probably going to close their eyes. They're probably going to turn their head. They're going to raise their hands up to protect them. Well, that's distracting them from doing whatever they're trying to do. Oh, could you have one of these in your office or your workplace? Okay, your house, baseball bat, club, improvised weapons. And here we are. We're trying to teach you how to survive a gunfight without a gun. Okay, that's what we're talking about here. But you know, if you're not a convicted felon, you're certainly allowed to have weapons in your home. If you got your permit, you can concealed carry permit. You're certainly allowed to carry that out in the public spaces too. So, mount attack. How effective is that guy going to be against that?
Can I ask a question regarding that last picture?
Okay.
I'm not discrediting, but the guy with the fire extinguisher,
Mm-hmm.
to me, I'd be shooting it at him.
Oh, really?
Wouldn't that be more effective? Because again,
Okay.
something coming in your face,
Yeah. Take a look at that. How effective, how distracting you think that would be to the guy? And then you hit him with it, right? Follow that up with some strikes.
I was just curious about that.
There you go. Pretty effective. Okay. Swarming. Here's another video we're going to watch about this guy. He was a city council member, and a gunman come in and started an attack.
John, you know it's a miracle that you're alive.
I know it's a miracle. I cannot believe it, and I cannot explain why I'm alive, other than God who's taking care of me.
Has all of this started to sink in?
Oh, I don't know if it's ever going to really sink in. I'm obviously aware of what happened. I'm thankful to be alive. The horror of it is still with me, and I think it's going to be with me for a long time.
Walk me through what happened when you first heard Cookie.
I was looking down because we were just starting a public hearing, and I was
He's sitting in a
entering
place like
exhibits
this.
into the record. So I didn't see him enter the council chambers. I heard his voice, and I looked up, and he was to my left. He was standing a foot or two away from Officer Tom Baldwin, who was sitting in a chair up against the wall. He had a placard in his hand, and I didn't see what it said, because when I looked up, he immediately dropped his placard. I saw he had 2 guns in his hand. He was shouting something. I didn't understand what he was saying. He immediately shot Officer Baldwin. I then ducked underneath the DS. And I remember Art McDonald ducking underneath the DS, Tim Griffin. I heard other shots, did not see what happened. I then saw Mayor Swoboda walk behind me and go from my left to my right. And I heard a shot. I saw him fall. I saw that he was bleeding from the head. I then heard additional shots to my right, and they sounded very close. and I believed he was just going down the Diaz and shooting people. And I believed that he was coming after me. So I got up and I ran. And I ran to my left, and I was heading towards the front door. And I looked out and saw my peripheral vision that he was coming towards the front door as well, chasing after me. And we got about 2/3 of the way towards the end of the council chambers, towards the door. And he was about 4 feet away from me, stopping my passage to the door with both guns aimed right at me. So I picked up a chair and I threw it at him. And I was lucky enough when it hit him and the guns moved to his right, away from me. So I then took a couple steps closer towards him and picked up another chair and hit him with it as hard as I could. I then threw a third chair at him as I started to go back the way I came, thinking that I would go back out a back door. And I saw that door was closed. I don't know if it was locked. I didn't know if I'd had time to open a door. And I remember stepping over Ken Rose's body. So I then went to my left, thinking that there was another door over there. And I looked behind me and Cookie Thornton was chasing me. And I saw him trip and fall over Ken Joe's body. When I saw him go down, I thought, well, I got a better chance. So I then went back towards the front of the council chambers and out the door. As I hit the steps, 2 officers were coming up the steps. They were literally at the top of the steps when I was taking my first step onto the steps. Went down the steps, out the door, and heard initial gunfire. And based on what I now know, I don't know. I know they shot Cookie Thornton.
Walk through witness, yeah.
I was sitting here. As you can see, Mayor Swoboda was there. Councilmember McDonald was here. When I saw Cookie Thornton, he was standing right there. Officer Ballman was right there. He was only about a foot. That's when he dropped his placard and immediately shot Officer Ballman. I then went underneath the Diaz. I heard shots, then I saw Mayor Swoboda walking this way, and I saw him fall, and I saw him bleeding from the head when he was laying right there. I then later on heard shots over this way, which would have been again to my right, and they sounded like they were even closer to me, so I got up and ran this way. Ken Rose's body was right there. Tom Ballman's body was still in the chair. Ran here, hoping to get to the door. When I got to about here, Cookie Thornton had come from here and was right there. And that's where I threw the chair at him, then hit him with the chair, and then threw another chair at him. And then I ran back this way, throwing chairs behind me as I went, hoping to block him, hoping that I was going to go through a doorway that was here. That's the door that appeared to be closed. So then I started going this way, thinking I might head for that door. And that's when I looked back, when I was about here, I looked back and I saw that he had stumbled and fallen over Kenyo's body, I believe. So then I ran. I decided to go this way, out the front door. The steps were right here. After I got out the door, the police officers were coming up the steps as I went down the steps.
So how did he survive?
John,
How did he survive?
Fought.
He fought, didn't he? He decided not to be a sitting duck. He was moving. He survived a gunfight without a gun by doing things, even in very close proximity at times, right? Evacuate, right? Only 2% of violent intruder events have been by more than one person. There have been events where someone was inside and then they had somebody outside. Okay, one was a school shooting where one kid went in and set the fire alarm off, and another kid was outside waiting. Okay, but that's very rare. Okay, but it shouldn't be a reason like, oh, I don't want to run outside. If someone's inside, that you know is there, you know there's for a fact there's someone in the building trying to kill me, outside is a pretty good option, right? I'm not gonna worry about what might be outside, I'm gonna worry about what I know is inside first, okay? So if he's inside, get outside, okay? We're talking about businesses with lots of cars. Don't use your car to evacuate. Don't run your car. If you're running out of a grocery store and try to get in your car, I mean, by the time you get in your car, get the engine started, back out of your spot or whatever, you probably could have been 200-300 yards farther away if you just kept running, creating that distance. If and that guy's following you out, you get in your car, you know, you're not going to be able to get away from him like you would if you just kept on going. Reunification points, we talk about this in businesses and they make plans. Sometimes they'll have, okay, if we have an emergency, we're going to evacuate to here and here, but that's never the priority in an active shooter event. That may be okay for a disaster, there's not someone trying to shoot and kill people. We always tell people, I'd rather have my 5-year-old grandson wandering around in a neighborhood where he doesn't know anybody than I would to be trying to get to a place just because that's where he's supposed to go. It's going to keep him in danger, right? Skills beyond lockdown that everyone should know, okay? You should know how to barricade. You should know how to barricade, ways that you can barricade, different ways to secure doors, especially ones that you're around. I mean, in your work environment, your home, different places. Cover and concealment, know what that is. I mean, cover is something you can get behind that is likely to stop bullets. Concealment is just concealing you from someone, okay? A lot of people may not know it, but a good thick book, you know, like the old phone books, one of those would stop a bullet. It will stop a handgun round, okay? If you got a filing cabinet in your office and you put that up against the door and it's full of reams of paperwork and you get behind that, there's no way, not even I don't know about a super, like a 50 cal might go through it, but a regular AR rifle, something like that, it's not even going to go through that paper. Okay? So, know what you can use for cover and concealment. Evade and escape. Okay, getting out is a great idea if you can. If he's inside, get outside. That zigzag thing, creating distance. You need to know, the more distance I create, I'm increasing my chances of survival. Okay. Removing and secure the weapon. Let's say that, oh, I'm sorry, I skipped the swarm. Swarm is just attacking the person. When I cannot escape, I'm in a room, and the attacker comes in the room and I can't get past him, then my only option is you know, I can be moving, I can be throwing things at him, but if I cannot escape, I might need a swarm. Okay, and if there's multiple people, that's why we call it a swarm when there's multiple people. So if you were in a location, somebody come in that door right now with a gun, and Jack back there jumps on the guy, Tom should jump on him too, and I'm going to jump on him too, and Eric should jump on him too, right? The more people, I don't care how strong the guy is, you get 5 people on him, just holding on to an arm, or one person on a leg, one person on an arm, I mean, that person is going to be ineffective, okay? But think about it. Think about what you could do and how you would do it. Even if you don't actually practice it or train it, just thinking about it and imagining yourself in that event and doing those things can create a pathway in your brain that if you're ever faced with that, your brain has something to go to and have you start to act instead of going, oh, I don't know what to do, okay? Removing and securing the weapon, so you do swarm the guy or whatever, the gun's down on the floor, what should I do? I mean, if he's actively fighting, first of all, what are you allowed to do if someone's trying to kill you? Legally, what can you do? You can do anything, right? Any deadly force is justifiable if you're using it against a person that you believe is trying to kill you, okay? You're an imminent threat of death or serious bodily harm. You're allowed to use deadly force, whatever that force may be. It could be a gun, it could be an object that you're smashing somebody with, it could be your feet stomping them, you know, punching them, whatever it is, a car, it doesn't matter. So if they got the guy down and he's trying to get up, how many of you think it's reasonable to believe that if he gets up, he's going to continue his attack? Okay, so doing whatever it takes to keep him down would be justified in that situation, right? So if he's trying to get up, then people should be doing things to him that's going to cause him to stop fighting, whatever that is. I mean, kicking him, stomping on his head, whatever it takes, whatever thing you can imagine. But you might want to, you know, like I said, pre-program your mind a little bit and justify. So I'm allowed to do that. That's the time that I'm going to do whatever it takes. Okay, so the weapon's down, whatever. I mean, if he's trying to fight and get up, whatever, could you use the weapon against him?
Absolutely.
Okay, you could, if you know what you're doing and what to do with it. Absolutely could do that. You know, you don't want to be standing there holding the gun when the cops run in, right? They're looking for a guy with the gun, okay? And we don't want you to have the gun, okay? That would be a terrible, terrible situation. So if he's no longer a threat, or you want to get the gun away, get it out of there, one thing we try to suggest, we'll put it into a trash can, pick the trash can up and carry it out like that, okay? So even when you're coming out of the building and police are coming in or whatever, they see you carrying a trash can, they're not going to say, oh, you know, they're not going to recognize you as a threat by doing that. And you can say, I've got the bad guy's firearm in this can or whatever. If you're going to stay in there, I mean, you take the trash can, put it upside down over the gun, and sit on it. Have somebody sit on it. You know, just secure it until law enforcement gets there. You could take it and put it into another room. Just take it somewhere and hide it from him. That way, if he does get up, he can't find you. And if he's got one weapon on him, is it likely he might have another one? It's possible. Many times, these active shooters have more than one weapon. Okay. Contact with law enforcement. So, you know, we're coming as fast as we can. And we're sorry that we're not there right there when it happens to do what we're supposed to do, but when we get there, we're going to do it. You can help us and help yourself by doing certain things. This is what can hurt us, okay, right? Your hands, when you show us your hands, when you go like this, you're telling me I'm not a threat. I'm not a threat. I'm not a threat. If you come out of the building and we can't see your hands, then we have to look at you as a potential threat until we determine that you're not. So when you leave the building, you want to come out with your hands out front and up, fingers spread. Don't have your cell phone in your hand, anything that could be perceived as a weapon. In Sandy Hook, there was somebody called in to 911 and said the shooter was, you know, back behind the building going a certain direction. But what it was, they saw a parent with a cell phone running around back there, and they thought it was a weapon. So anyway, when you come out, this is what we want to see. When we see this, you're telling us without saying a word, I'm not a threat to you. But if you're doing anything else, we can't see your hands, we're going to have to address you like you're a potential threat until we make sure that you're not. Do whatever you're told to do immediately. When we're coming in, you know, there might be a lot of people wounded, you might be wounded. Our initial response is not to give you medical aid, okay? Our first thing we have to do is try to find the threat. Is there still a threat? And if there is, we've got to take care of that first. After we've done that, then we're going to start working on helping you, helping people. We actually, here again, we're up in our training all the time. We have the fire department has a rescue task force, and we have firemen that are outfitted. They ready to respond with our SWAT. But anyway, is it national? It's a national thing. Rescue task force and fire departments have people that got ballistic vests and helmets. And if there's an active shooter situation, they will go into the scene. You know, usually, traditionally, how it worked was firemen would park down the street until the police said the scene is clear. There's no more threat in this building, and then they'll come in. People are bleeding. Okay? You only got a certain amount of time when you're bleeding, so now we've upped it to where, okay, we're going to go in. If we think we've got the threat and located in a certain area, we're pretty sure we got them down, even before we got one guy, you know, 98% is one person. We're probably going to start sending those rescue task force guys in with armed officers as their protection while they're saving people's lives, okay? So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Let's take a break real
Okay.
quick.
All right, we're going to take a break. Restrooms, if you go out this way, they're right around, that way, they're right around there. And get some water to drink. this, sir. Thank you very much. Joyce says she had a wooden spoon. Oh, man, I want to use it as a demonstrate. You know, that they cross the line and it says that, like, bring these if you got us, like. Good to see you anyway. See, I would love seeing all the dares too. Absolutely.
Did I hear that KK's gonna retire next year?
When Steve leaves,
Oh, literally?
yeah.
Is Steve age now?
No, he's not gonna run again, he's done, he's not gonna go in on this special.
So this information you share with people, family members, yeah, friends, coworkers.
I think I'm gonna make sure to have it again at Wrangling and
Is it up 300? So yeah, he'll have.
This may be something we'll just put on. This is good. Maybe we'll just put it on there. And we'll see. I don't know when it'll be available to watch.
He came in, he had
We'll have it.
Wondering if it could be packaged.
somebody called about that in their house. So like, send him, he's like, there you go. What? You can say no? He's like, they're in church. I'm like, what did you say?
Maybe even a condensed, it was a slow morning, it's hard to watch too.
Well, and if you get on, if you get on YouTube, like there's all this on YouTube.
And he said,
People talk.
dispatcher all go, but I need my car. So,
It's just that
it's
one
a
time
big
right
call.
video is, that's the nutshell right there. Are we,
Not yet. So when we get started again, just so you guys know, I'm gonna be doing the blanks out in the surrounding area. So I won't fire off any in this room because they're pretty loud. But what I'm gonna do is I've got 9 blanks in this blank gun. It's a starter pistol. So I'm just gonna walk basically all through the 2nd floor, firing off blanks as we go. So that's just so you guys can have an opportunity to hear what gunshots sound like inside the building. Because sometimes it's muted, sometimes it's real loud, like real close by, it'll be pretty loud. But when I get all the way in the back of the building, you may or may not hear it. Just depends on how good your hearing is.
If we hear horses running, should we be concerned? I checked to make sure the light was off.
Yeah.
Before-
I want to go give him a lift down here. You can double check that phone.
yep. I'm acting like I know what I'm doing, maybe I don't.
Push that, pull that out.
No.
And then that cylinder will just fall right down. Here's blanks. Just don't turn it, there you go.
Okay. There you go, I'll let you do that. I'll turn my sound back on whenever you're ready. You wanna talk to me on the phone, on speakers, and you tell me where you're at, like?
Sure. Okay, I'm calling you. Okay, so I'm gonna walk around the second floor, firing blanks as I go, and I'll tell Harold where I'm at as I'm doing it. So this first one's gonna be right outside the door here.
We knew it was coming, we still did.
Alright, Harold, by the city manager, result right out.
It's all the way down the hallway.
Alright, so now I'm actually back in the back side of the building,
He's,
right outside the city manager's office.
there are doors between us and him now, it should be a little more muffled.
Okay, now I'm all the way back in IT, which is on the southwest corner of the building.
Back there. Several doors between us and them, him and us.
Alright, can you hear that one?
Yes.
Alright, now I'm in the office, all the way in the back side. So there's a break room that I'm in. It's
Straight down this
nice
hallway.
small room in the center of the building.
Just barely hear that. Barely.
Okay, so I'm in it's the hallway back here.
Coming up this way.
Put it down there. Alright, and then the stairwell. On the left side of the
Two doors between us and him, and he's in the stairwell. A lot of echo there because it's block walls.
Alright, now I'm on the other side of the wall of the council chambers and executive session room here. That was the last one.
Okay.
That's just a single shot.
Yeah. Single shot from a .22 caliber cap gun. Okay, a handgun like a 9mm would be a little louder. Rifle, you know, would be substantially louder, probably like, I don't know, 5 times as loud or something. Pretty significant.
How many of those we have not heard had we all been talking?
Yeah, right. Not as many. And
You may think somebody dropping something.
right, I mean, it may not have been like, oh, that sounded like gunfire, right? Maybe hard to tell. A lot of times when people hear it, your mind is really good at filling in blanks. Okay? If you see something and you don't know what it is, your mind will try to figure out what it is. It'll try to fit it somewhere into something that it knows. So a lot of times when people hear gunfire, they write it out, and we don't want to think or believe that someone's shooting a gun in this building, and we're going to write it off like, oh, that sounded like fireworks, or that sounded like somebody dropping something, or something like that, and may write it off because of that. My wife and I, we were about, I don't know, a week and a half ago or so, we were watching TV in the evening time, and all of a sudden I hear boom, bam, pop, 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 pop. We both looked at each other and first, oh, that sounds like fireworks. I'm like, yeah, it sounds like fireworks. That's what everybody says when they hear gunshots. So I was like, I got to get up and look. So, and some of it may be because of this training. I know that's what people say when they hear gunshots. So I'm not just going to write it off. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of calories to get up and look. Okay. So, be aware that officers are going to be responding from different departments, okay? May see people in different uniforms, okay? Detectives, plain clothes, they might be dressed kind of like I am, just, slacks and a polo, a badge and a gun. As our Xenia police detectives, we wear, badges right here. Okay, a lot of times when people look at a person, they look here. Officers, we look here, surrounding where the people's hands are, whatever, we're gonna look there to recognize, oh, that's an officer, okay? So, like our detectives all carry these type of vests like that. Our whole detective section carries those in their cars. They also have rifles available to them, so they may be, if they're close by, they may be the first people there. Officers are gonna come from all jurisdictions. If there's something that happened in our school or one of our churches, something like that, they're gonna come and come and come until we say, don't come anymore, we got enough, right? Officers may be dressed in jeans and t-shirts, but they should at least have something that says police on them. We have drug task force guys that look, kind of like Jack Man back there. You see, I bet he's a cop. He's probably a drug cop or something. Anyway, so just in your mind, there again, prepare your mind that officers don't always look like our traditional police officer in his uniform and gun belt and regular badge. Okay, so how to increase your chances of survival? Number one, believe that it could happen to you. Believe that it could happen to you. That's going to keep you from thinking, oh, that was just fireworks. Oh, that probably was just this or that. And that's what people say. The first thing people want to do is deny. Okay? They deny. Someone points a gun at them, like, I'm going to shoot you. They're like, well, why would you want to kill me? Why are you doing this? Why doesn't matter, does it? Why, his reason for pointing a gun at you, that doesn't matter, does it? All that matters is that he's pointing a gun at you. So believe it, okay? Believe that it could happen to you. Now, probably after this training, you're going to have a heightened sense of alertness because you're thinking about all these things. And that's good, right? That's some time you're ingraining some of these principles. You're going to be looking at people different. You might sit in different locations when you're out in public or whatever. Pay more attention to what people are doing. Look at everybody. Like I remember I took a terrorism class, a SWAT terrorism class, and these guys were talking about, it's just a matter of time before we have terrorists that are planting dirty bombs and all this stuff. And I'm telling you, when I took that class, everybody I saw driving down the road was a suspected terrorist in my mind. But that kind of wore off. It kind of wore off after a while. So if you are amped up or anxious about this training, it will kind of dissipate after a while. But during that time, you're also ingraining some important concepts into your mind. Okay, you're programming yourself. Okay. Believe people are capable of killing. Believe it. Oh, he wouldn't do that. He won't shoot me. He won't shoot me. And we have all kinds of stuff. We'll have somebody standoff, and we'll have people coming down the road and trying to get in front of the cops and walk right into the location. Like, he won't shoot me. I'm going to go in there and talk him out of it, But believe people are capable of it, because they are. They are. Be aware of your surroundings. Okay, practice, and this is something you can practice. Like when you go into a place, know where the exits are. The first thing you should do when you walk into a place is notice the exits, right? Where are the exits? If I need to run out of this room right now, where could I go? Okay, I see people eyes darting. Okay, we know we got the main entrance, because if you don't look, and then all of a sudden something happens, the only thing that your brain knows is this one exit, that one place that you came in. That's what your brain knows, and that's where your brain's probably going to tell you to go. But if that's not an option, you may sit there and go, I don't know what to do. And now your brain is forced to try to figure out a plan. But when you're scared to death, trying to figure out a plan when you're scared to death is very difficult for your brain to do. Okay? To process new information, come up with a logical solution, and then enact it is difficult. So when you go into a restaurant or wherever, you're like, oh, there's a fire exit here. There's fire exits all over the place. There's always a back door in the kitchen. Okay, a lot of people wouldn't think of a kitchen. No, if I'm sitting here with my family, whatever, something happens, some guy comes in and starts shooting up the place, man, I got an exit right there. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to look around. All I have to do is start moving, right? I can go right to act because I've already thought about it. Okay? Watch people, right? What are people doing? Who looks out of place? You know, what is that guy doing over there? Okay? Practice watching them. And then if you're watching them, if you think, that guy looks odd, he looks strange, then you might start practicing what ifs in your mind while he's not doing anything. You're thinking, well, if he is somebody, I already know where I'm leaving. You just brought that back to the forefront of your mind. Oh, and also I've got a chair here. I could pick this chair up and throw at him. I've got what, you know, you start thinking about what ifs. Oh, I got my gun. I'm a concealed carry permit holder. I got my gun right here. I know exactly what I'm going to do. There's nobody behind him. Okay. Position, barricade props and weapons, like if you're in your home, if you want to have a safe place. I mean, if you knew that next week someone's going to intrude in your house and assault you, would you do anything? If you knew it was going to happen? If you knew next week when you go out to your favorite restaurant that during the time you're sitting there eating and somebody's going to run into that restaurant and start shooting people, would you do anything different? I mean, you would avoid the place, but let's say you can't you can't decide not to go. It's going to happen. Would you do anything different? You would. What would you do?
Sit in a different place.
Huh?
Sit in a different place where I know there's a way out.
Okay, sit close to an exit. What else would you do?
Carry more magazines.
Carry more bullets. Okay. Carry a gun. You might carry your weapon, because some people have their permit, but they only carry it sometimes, or to that one place, or this certain area. But this is the thing. You don't get to choose the place that it happens. You don't get to choose the time. Okay? You don't get to choose. Somebody else gets to choose. The only thing you can do is be prepared. Okay? You don't get to choose. Okay? Anyway, so these are things you can practice. Sit down with your family at the restaurant and say, hey, don't look away from me. Tell me where the exits are. They may not get it right the first few times, but after a while they'll be like, well, there's one over here, there's one over there. I can grab this chair. Oh yeah, and I'm packing today. Okay? Your ability to quickly recognize the problem enables you to start making decisions to solve it, right? So if you're paying attention, then you're more likely to see something happening before it gets to a place. As soon as you see it, as soon as you see a person that looks odd or strange or doesn't fit, you can start doing that what-ifing and preparing yourself, because as soon as you can identify a problem, the quicker you can go to acting, right? What we don't like to happen is to be totally caught off guard, in surprise, by something happened violently right in front of us, and then we have no clue what to do. We've never trained ourselves in any type of self-defense or martial arts or weaponry, or even what I would do with a chair if I picked one up. Okay, that's a bad situation. But if you can think ahead a little bit and prepare, then you're more likely to be able to act and do something to increase your chances of survival. Okay, and win. Decide that you're not going to be a victim. Okay, I don't want to be called a victim. I don't want to be called a victim. I used to say, I'm not going to say that. Yeah, don't be a victim. I'm going to win. Mindset. I'm going to win no matter what. I won't stop no matter what. I'm going to survive this. I'm going to do whatever it takes to do whatever it is that I need to do, and I'm not stopping until it's done. Nothing's going to stop me. Okay? Already did that. Make plans, and where you are most of the time, you should have some idea of things that you could do or would do. Right? Run, hide, fight. Run, hide, fight. That video is a pretty good nutshell of this whole program. Get away if you can, okay? Even if you're a good fighter. Even if you're a good fighter, even if you're a good martial artist, you're a good shooter, there's always a chance you're going to lose. So if you can get away, get away. Get away, get away. Okay? If you can't get away, try to secure yourself somewhere. Get behind things that'll stop bullets. And then prepare yourself while you're in that secured location. If he does get in here, this is what I'm gonna do. You know how to break a window? Most modern windows are built, any window that a human being will come in contact with has to be made of tempered glass. It's very, very strong, but if it breaks, it doesn't break into sharp shards. Okay? All this glass here would be tempered glass. I could take one of these chairs right here and hit this tempered glass probably as hard as I can right there, and I'm not going to break it. Okay? It will not break. Tempered windows on your cruisers are made of, or windows on your side windows on your car are tempered glass. I've seen officers, my daughter's new officers, take her ass. Dad, I tried breaking this window, I couldn't break it. She takes her ass about. She's probably watching this, gonna be embarrassed, but it's okay. She knows how to break a window now. Anyway, take her ass and hit that window, and it just bounces off. You can hit even with a steel rod ass baton. Whacking that thing right in the center, it will not break. But if you take it and you hit it correctly, take one of these chairs and hit it with one of the legs and hit it on the edge, that's where it's weak. There's more stress and strain and pressure on that edge. It can't move, it can't give. This in the center can give, and it'll be hard to break. So you hit it on the edge, this thing will turn into 1,000, more than 1,000, probably 10,000 pieces of little glass. It won't cut you. Well, it doesn't have sharp edges. Okay.
Are you about to do a demonstration?
Please don't.
So, if you work in a place that has a window, but there's, no way of opening it, or the window's not big enough for you to get out, should you already have a plan how you break that window? Could you have a hammer in there? That'd be better than a chair. A hammer, you wouldn't even hardly have to hit it very hard. Even with one of these legs, it still may be difficult to cause enough stress, even on the edge, to break that glass. But you could pre-plan those locations, right? Of course, they make little tools too, for your car or whatever, where you can break glass with it, cut a seat belt and all that kind of stuff. I won't watch this video. So, trauma and first aid. So when's help going to arrive? Okay, we've already talked about that. We got the rescue task force. But there may be some time. There may be some time that you're there. Maybe you've been wounded. Maybe you got to barricade yourself in that room or whatever, and you're kind of secure, but you're bleeding. Okay, or someone that's with you is bleeding. Okay, it may be a while before you get some help. So controlling bleeding is one of the few actions in which you can critically influence the outcome. Okay, save somebody's life, stopping the bleeding. Our life is in our blood. And so some things you can do, we all probably know about direct pressure. Okay, using shirts or whatever, putting over top of it, holding it as good as we can, to allow the blood to clot and stop bleeding. Okay, there's some wounds. If you get injured in an artery, one of your main arteries, you got maybe 3 or 4 minutes to live. If you're bleeding out of one of your main arteries, your leg, okay, your arms, you got about maybe 3 or 4 minutes to live. If you can stop that bleeding, you increase your chances of survival quite a bit, right? So, tourniquets are great. Okay, if you guys don't know about tourniquets, they save thousands and thousands of our military people that have been wounded. Okay, we all, as Xenia Police, we all carry a tourniquet on us at all times when we're on duty. So one of our required things we do. Could be used on ourselves or somebody else. They're not expensive, about $25–30. You can get a nice. We use a cat tourniquet. Keep one in your glove box. If you're in a car crash, you get somebody, your husband, your wife sitting there bleeding, you need to have a way to stop that bleeding. Okay, if you don't have something already there or a plan to do it, your ability to do it in that amount of time is not very much. And if it's you that's bleeding, you only got maybe about a minute before you don't even care. I'm starting to feel sleepy. I just want to go to sleep, and I'm okay with that. okay? So you got about a minute that you're able to think and maybe get that thing on you, minute and a half. So, anyway, we're gonna, there is a program called Stop the Bleed. And Lon, you instructed? Yeah, he's an instructor in this. I looked up the website. If you look up the website, I'll give you the website here in a second. But Kettering Medical Center has a Stop the Bleed class, I know next month on the 12th. They got one in November. I don't know if they do it every month, but you know, it's a good skill. It's a good skill, not to just be used for gunshots, but it could be, right? If you can stop the bleed, chances of survival are way up, okay? So do you want to say anything else about that?
Yeah, we'll be offering at least one more Stop the Bleed class this year, maybe 2 more. So keep watching our Facebook page for that, but we will definitely have at least 1 more this year. And it's about a 2-hour program, is what we're trying to keep it to, is a 2-hour program. Probably be in the same room down the road, but look to our Facebook page and it'll get announced. Probably, I'm thinking October is when we're gonna shoot for it.
It's a good skill for anyone to have, right? Here's the website, bleedingcontrol.org. You can get on there if you want to check when classes are available or whatever. It has it right on there. So, all right. That concludes my presentation. So if you want to, got some questions written down, you want to ask us, we'll try to answer the best of our ability. Yes, sir.
Getting back to the Columbine shooting, you said that victims that were in the library, I get the impression from you that they made a mistake in staying in the library. What would you recommend they do?
Okay. I don't know if you can remember the slide or not. The suspects, the 2 shooters, were outside the library, and there was a teacher inside the library for 7 minutes on the phone with 911. There were exits out the other side of the library. It'd be like there's 2 shooters outside this room right here shooting, and we're all in here, and I'm the teacher, and you guys are wanting to leave through these doors, and I'm saying, get down behind the chairs. So they should have left. They had time to leave. You know, the teacher did what, I'm not down here, I mean, I feel sorry. She probably feels really guilty, you know, but never been trained. If you can get out, get out. It's instinctive in us to get away if we can, and that's what ultimately, they could have all survived. Every one of those 10 that were killed, they had 7 minutes to get away. 7 minutes of shooting outside this door, and if we all stayed in here, that would be a sad response, wouldn't it? Okay. Yes, sir.
Sorry. You know, the instrument that you use to break glass in your car when you're drowning, and your car goes over, are you saying that instead of it hitting the middle of the glass, you hit on the edge?
Yeah. The edge is the best place to hit. Now, some things it may not matter. I don't know if you know, if you take a spark plug that's made out of ceramic and break it up into little pieces, I could take that and go toss it like that hard, and it'll break that window. Okay? But if you're hitting it with like a hammer or an object or something like that, and you hit it in the center of the window, it'll flex. It flexes. Around the edges, it's rigid. Now, those tools may be designed, maybe it has a ceramic tip on it. For some, I don't understand the science behind it, but it's probably got a tip that is specifically designed for breaking windows, and it may break the window. Now, I'll tell you an experience that I've had, because you know my daughter was trying to break this window, so I had a pocket knife that's got one of those points on it, and we had a car out at the range, and I went out there to see, well, does this work? Okay, and I struck it. You know, first I did it real gently, you know, I hit like that a few times and it wasn't breaking it, and I started hitting it harder and harder, and it had a point on it that its purpose was to break that window. I think it was probably not a good quality one. I couldn't break it with that. I since then have had other people tell me that they had one. It was probably a good one. Maybe so. There may be better ones that work properly. Now I've got one in my car, and it's that I keep in my bag right there, and all it is spring loaded, and I can put it right up against the window and just go like that, and it'll break it just like that. okay? Hardly any pressure at all. It's because the point is designed for that specific purpose.
Last question.
Yes, sir.
You talked about knowing if somebody was going to be at a location and how to prepare for it. If you have a facility that has a no-gun sign in front, and you're a CCW carrier, can you carry your gun in that location?
Not legally.
Legally?
Not legally. Yeah, if they have a sign up says, we don't allow guns, then if you go in there with your gun, you're breaking the law and could be charged.
Even a local restaurant?
Yep. Anywhere in public, if there's a sign, any public place that's owned by a, they can say if you can bring a gun in there or not.
So we're actually gonna do a seminar later this year. I repeat what I did in the fall or in the spring. It'll deal with those kind of laws. But Harold is correct. If a private property wants to put that sign up, then if you do carry past that sign, it is a crime.
Okay, so if there's a crime that happens and you're carrying it, and you end up stopping the perpetrator,
You could be charged.
Could be charged.
so it could be charged.
You could be charged and hailed a hero at the same time.
That's right.
So, high five, you're a hero, here's your charge.
Yeah, here's your ticket, pay your fine.
Well, I guess to the point that you had indicated, you said, well, sometimes these CCW carriers only carry it now and then.
Yeah, that's true. And not because of that necessarily. And there's some people that get their permit and never carry it. And then there's some people, they just carry it, I don't know, but I'm gonna carry it today. Or maybe there's certain parts of town that they decide, maybe they got rental property. I carry it with me when I go to my rental property or something like, I don't know. To me, even our officers, this officer right here, I remember as an instructor a long time ago saying, we need to be carrying our guns all the time. That's our job, that's what we do, and who better to be doing it than us? And went to a training where, we talked about being sheep. You're gonna be a sheep, you're gonna be a wolf. There's wolves, there's sheepdogs and sheep. And if you don't have your weapon with you, you're just a sheep, okay? If you wanna be a sheepdog, you gotta have your weapon. But we have officers that don't carry their guns.
Off duty?
Yeah, off duty. And I asked the same question to one of our officers today, because he showed up at a training to do some training, and when we do hands-on training, I tell him to unarm, and I'm like, are you armed? He's like, no. I just was curious. I was like, did you bring a gun with you today? And Mom's like, I got 2 in the car. But anyway, this guy's, no, I didn't bring one. I was like, So I asked him the same question. I said, if you knew you were going to get in a gunfight today on your way here, would you have brought your gun? He's like, well, of course. I'm like, okay. You know that you don't get to choose. You don't get to choose. Somebody else is going to make that choice. So trying to encourage, because yeah. Next question.
Maybe not so much a question. I instruct martial arts, I also teach self-defense. Kudos to you guys for first off putting this program together. To let you people know, I've had self-defense seminars and had some people say, yeah, I had training 10 years ago. I don't remember anything from it. And I think it's important that your training is continuous, because it's very easy to lose even the littlest of things. Yeah. And then when you get in that situation, oh, I forget what, so the more you can train, and even when you said, rebroadcasting tonight's program, please do. Mm-hmm. Because the more people can hear that over and over again. When I teach karate, I use the word again a lot. Absolutely. My students are like, please, but it's important because even with your practice as officers,
I was trying to think about the other day, in my entire career, I bet I spent like at least 3 to 4 solid years. If that's all I did was train, I've trained that much. Over 31 years, I've probably trained 3 or 4 solid years. Wow. I never thought about it for how much training have I had, so I add up all the things. So, and that's true. If you leave here today, everybody's got a little pamphlet there. You probably took a little notes or whatever. You can look at that, and it'll kind of remind you things. If you take a handgun class, And I tell people, take my concealed carry class or whatever, that, you know, you're gonna, in 2 or 3 weeks, whatever you learned, you thought was really good today, you're not gonna remember as much of it in 2 or 3 weeks, you know? And if you don't look at it and think about it, get your gun out, if you don't do those kind of things, if you don't practice what you've learned, you start to lose it. Absolutely. They're perishable skills, perishable skills.
I think it is important to, you know, being proactive. I think, you know, very important. Sadly, in today's society, I can see, you know, human nature wherever you hear a gunshot, easy to dismiss it if you're not around it or whatever. Or sometimes it's very easy for people to, oh, I don't want, I'll be embarrassed if I point something out.
Yeah.
Don't be embarrassed.
Yeah.
I'm the first to try and bear, you know, hey, I may be hearing things, but anybody else hear that kind of thing?
Right.
You need to do that.
Yeah, and people are more likely to go, oh, did you hear that? And you're like, no, or, oh, I think that was just as you're, okay. We do what other people do, okay? Don't let that, you know, it's okay to be a little embarrassed. So, yeah, I got up and looked. So what? Oh, yeah, he got up and looked. He thought it was a gunshot. Okay, yeah, I did. All right. Didn't cost me anything, did it? I burned a few calories.
You know, one of the saddest things is that when these events happen, people come forward and say, well, I kind of suspected something like this was going to happen, and they never said it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can look at this time and time again.
Yeah.
Virginia Tech, the signs were there. Incident after incident. Columbine, the signs were all there.
Oh.
But people are afraid to say something. You know, you just look in the news here recently, and law enforcement has been able to stop, what, 6 mass casualty incidents because people came forward and said, hey, this might be a problem. So we just need to keep that as a reminder for society, is that if those signs are there, Harold described them all, you know, say something so that we don't have people come on the news and say, yeah, you know, I saw this, I saw this, I saw this, and I just didn't say anything, right? So, you know, that's the saddest thing about some of these events, is they could have been stopped if people would just come forward and said, hey, here's what's going on.
I also like, I'm sorry, I keep talking. Knowing your surroundings, to me, as an instructor, that's one of the first things to teach people, because just walking, you know, even when you walk out of like a Walmart and you know your car's 100 yards straight ahead, but you see someone suspicious or a little flag goes up, then act like you don't know where your car is, so that you're able to scan more, or just go back in, get a manager. Don't be afraid to grab them and say, there's someone out there, I don't feel comfortable. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely. By paying attention, you're more likely to see something in advance and be able to avoid it altogether. You know, you pull into a gas station and there's a carload of people in there that, and because you're paying attention, you see them, like, I don't really want to interact with those guys. Well, I can go to another gas station, right? You can walk right back into the grocery store. If you see something happen, you can walk right back in and just watch from inside and try to figure it out, or call the police, or whatever you need to do. By paying attention, you're increasing your chances of survival, and rather than just walking right into something. You know, don't be looking down when you're walking out to your car. Have your keys in your hand already, so you don't have to dig in your purse for them or your pocket or to find the key. So you can be, your head's up, you're looking around. Okay? And don't be afraid to challenge people. You know, I know another person that was out on a bike path. You know, some people go out on bike trails and they walk and things like that. And there was a guy that came up on a bicycle and was acting strange. I think he went past her, then he turned around and started coming back, and she's like, oh, you know, what's going on? So, you know, she could have cowered down, she could have, you know, looked like a victim, but instead she's like, I don't know what you're thinking, but you better stay away from me. She looked right at him and told him, you know, I'm not going to be an easy target. And that was the end of it. You know, who knows what he was planning, but he was definitely doing something. Got off his bike, started walking towards her, she turned him right around. So, yeah, paying attention, being assertive in those situations is good. Be assertive. Look at them. I'm not an easy target. Let them know. They might go somewhere else. You know, we're talking about a different animal. The active shooter, he's just looking for targets. Okay, But people that are looking to victimize you, as in robberies and stuff like that, they look for easy targets, vulnerable, okay?
Any other questions?
I was just gonna say, I want to, for you people, you know, learning self-defense, whether it's active shooter training or just simple hand, whatever, it's endless. You can't just leave here tonight thinking, okay, I know a lot, which you do learn a lot. But to be proactive, continue to try and go to training classes as much as you can.
Absolutely. This is your second time here, now Jack, man, he's probably been to more training than everybody in this room put together. It's just like a lifestyle. It's true. All right.
All right, that's, any other questions?
Thanks.
Thank you.